Hey everyone, Joe Waxman here, and in this video I want to look at the chart of JRR Tolkien, writer of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. I'm sure everyone's pretty familiar with that by now. Guys, before I begin, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps me out a lot. Appreciate it if you can do that. Thank you. Okay. I think everyone knows who J.R.R. Tolkien is. His movies, they made movies out of his books, which were already very popular, and then the movies became even more popular. They were quite well done, in my opinion. Can't really say much about the new spin-offs from Amazon. Doesn't really feel genuine, probably because Tolkien did not write those, and they're just somebody else wrote them, and they have the rights to it. I guess sort of like Disney making new Star Wars movies, and they don't feel very genuine or even really that authentic, or I don't know. I tried to watch first episode in the series, and I just didn't get into it. It just seemed like a regular TV show with like pointy ears. What's the point? I don't know. If there was a lack, it didn't feel like Tolkien. So, cheap knockoff, if you ask me. Anyway. All right. He's got a Capricorn sun in the 5th house, along with Mercury at 0 degrees. Capricorn, sun's at 12 degrees. And sun is ruling 12th house, so 12th and the 5th. That's very creative, right? Because 12th house, and a lot of times people forget this and they just say, well, 12th house is malefic. It's not really, I mean, it definitely has its malefic qualities, but it's also the house of the subconscious. And that's where we get our creativity from, right? And the 5th house is also very creative. And the sun's a very creative planet. So Capricorn may not be the most creative sign, but overall, this is very creative, and Capricorn is very hardworking, you could say, very focused, really goal oriented, and very wanting and willing to succeed, right? To do what it takes to succeed. Interestingly enough, The Hobbit was written initially as a child's, it was a story for his children, and he did not expect anything to become of it, but I guess someone, like a publisher, got their hands on it and they convinced him to publish it, and he did. And then it was a success, and so they contracted him to write The Lord of the Rings, the succession to The Hobbit, which he did, and that took him 10 years. Long time. All right. Yeah, Mercury is ruling his MC and his ascendant. So Mercury is a very prominent planet for him. It's ascendant lord and MC lord. It's not really making aspect to the MC, so that's not ideal, but it's in the fourth quadrant, 5th whole sign house. So very creative. 4th would indicate that it's something that he's very comfortable with, very at home with. Planets in the 4th house are things that you go home to and you do while you're at home, and it's automatic. It's not like you have to really work hard at it. Well, you might, I guess if it's Saturn, but it's something that you enjoy innately. Home is where the heart is. So there's a lot of enjoyment about 4th house planets. Okay. Now, 4th lord, Jupiter, is in Pisces, where it's in domicile, and Moon is about 13 degrees away at 0 degrees Pisces, both in the 7th house. I'm calling Moon in the 7th because 7th whole sign, and it's pretty close, within 5 degrees of the cusp. So that's very much pulling in the 7th house. Yeah, it might pull in some 6th house energy as well. But for imagination, right? This is great. And Moon and Jupiter, if you don't know already, they love each other. It's a very good combination, Moon and Jupiter, especially in Pisces or Cancer, any of those signs where they, Taurus would probably be good as well. Where one or both do well. Sagittarius would be another combination that would be good. So yeah, this is a very good combination. Shows very, very active imagination because Pisces again. So I mean, right away we could see lots of imagination here, because the 12th, 5th, Pisces in the 7th, and here because it's the 7th house, Jupiter's greatly expanding his imagination, as is his Moon in Pisces, but it's also going towards the world, the everything outside himself, because the 7th house is the house of others and the masses. So here he can imagine, a great big world out there, and which is what he did. The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings are he created his own universe essentially, with Middle Earth and Mordor, and I'm not the most, I don't remember the whole thing, but something like that. Jupiter is ruling the 4th. So this is the 4th lord is also our joy. It's where we become very happy and fulfilled by doing that. So Jupiter in Pisces in the 7th, something that he enjoys very much. There is a light square to Jupiter. It's not also Neptune, but more to Jupiter. I mean, we can see here that Jupiter is squaring the MC. That's not major. I have that set just so I can get, I don't know. I could just as easily turn it off, but I left it on, aspects to the MC. Anyway, there's a light square to Pluto, which is, I mean, that's difficult, but the reason I've mentioned it is because he lost his parents young. He lost his father to some kind of fever. And by the way, he was born in South Africa. And then when his father died, he was quite young. They moved to England. And then at age 12, his mother died from, diabetes? This was a long time ago. They didn't have the medicines, that could protect from these common, his father died from like a fever, and his mother died from diabetes. Anyway, that wouldn't have happened nowadays. But his parents died young, and so there's not really any negative aspects on his 4th house, or I see, but there's that light square to the ruler between Pluto, and Pluto is also conjunct the MC, so MC can relate to father. All right, so there's that, and Pluto is still aspecting the 4th house. Planets always have a opposite house aspect, right? 7th house on that. So I think we can see that there. Pluto and Neptune in Gemini, MC in Gemini. So career in writing, that's very indicative here of Gemini. And then Pluto and Neptune conjunct. So Neptune is the creativity, the imagination, the subconscious, co-ruler Pisces, as well as Pluto is, the very deep, dark elements. He's bringing that into his creativity, right? I mean, because you have to remember that if somebody's going to be writing about good guys and bad guys, they're going to have a strong element of that in their chart. They're going to have the negative as well as the positive, right? If he had no negative aspects with Pluto, let's say like Pluto is just somewhere, like, I don't know, just making no aspects in the, ninth house, eighth house, 11th house, or maybe second house or whatever. No aspects, no hard aspects, nothing difficult. It wouldn't have played a major role in his writing, you see, but he needs that darkness, he needs that heaviness to create the polarity. Otherwise, there's not going to be any orcs, there's not going to be Sauron, there's not going to be like the evil wizards and the beasts and all that ugly, nasty stuff that the good guys have to fight. There needs to be the antithesis. So that's Pluto in Gemini, conjunct Neptune, conjunct the MC. That's one indication, anyway. He's got his south node in Scorpio, widely conjunct Mars, 9 degrees in Scorpio, and Uranus. That's in the third house. So third house for writing. Uranus for the independence of mind, the originality, the brilliance, the inventiveness, right? Neptune is imagination, but Uranus rules the inventive creation, right? Not necessarily creativity in the Neptunian sense, but the creativity of flashes of insight and inspiration. It's Uranus is like the aha moment, like the breakthrough. You have a lot of breakthroughs and with Uranus, because it's like that bolt of lightning brings awakening and insight into things. And it's very in good dignity in Scorpio, right? It's considered exalted in Scorpio. And then Mars as well is excellent in Scorpio. It's in domicile. Mars has a square to Chiron. And this being in the third house, the square to Chiron from the 12th in Leo, this is a very creative aspect. This is, but the square is very creates a lot of tension, right? But this is another element that's adding to the richness of his writing, because Chiron, well, it's the wounded reject, but it can represent a sort of scientific element, as well as, it's bringing in creativity, because Leo in the 12th, it's a very creative house. And then Mars in Scorpio, it's just adding conflict and tension. I don't really know how this plays out in his own life, except I can see that it's adding another element in his writing, bringing in some magical, weird influences from the, mysteries of the 12th house into this, squaring this very powerful Mars in Scorpio. Mars in Scorpio would be like, something just badass, like a warrior, fierce warrior, dragon, or maybe like one of those giant orcs, or just something, I don't know. It's not anything in particular, obviously. It can mean many different things. Uranus and Scorpio definitely feels very wizard-like to me, right? Because it's magical. Uranus has that magical element, and Scorpio really lends itself to that, this, light and dark wizards and, warriors fighting. Scorpio is very, aggressive. It's not just Aries. Because Mars rules Aries. Mars in Scorpio is a bit more dark, and like, it's not just about like beating people up and slicing people with swords. It's also about like magic and psychology and poison and things of that nature, vengeance, so it's a bit more deep than just straight up like, let's kill each other with swords. There's a lot of magical elements or occultic elements in Scorpio, so we're getting that as well. Exalted Saturn, and look at these degrees: 0 degrees, 0 degrees, 0 degrees. The 0 degrees is a very powerful degree, because, as I've said before, 0 degrees of any sign is the the unlimited expression of that sign. There, because there's no, in Zen they call it the beginner's mind. In the beginner's mind, there's no limitations. There's endless possibilities. So in the beginner's mind, anything can happen, right? And that's when you see people with planets in 0 degrees, they just take things further. They go further. They go to the extremes because they don't know their own limitations. So planets in 0 degrees can really go to extremes. So he has this exalted Saturn in Libra in the, well, it's in the first quadrant, but second whole sign house. Excuse me. Square Mercury. And here's another tense aspect. Mercury and Saturn together create science, a scientific kind of thinking. So there's going to be an element, a tense element, a struggling element of something that's scientific. And so science fiction, obviously, we're getting that, and a lot of conflict within that, right? Butting heads, struggles, opposition. If it's too easy, the book doesn't work. If it's too easy, it's just like, oh, the good guys just defeat the bad guys and live happily ever after. Like, there has to be major tension, major struggle. We're going to see that in his chart. Really, what we're looking at in Tolkien, or any author, is how they're constructing their fiction, and why. Because you can't do otherwise. You can't have like a boring chart and then make up this fantastic universe and novels and become world famous. It wouldn't work. It simply would not work. The author is only going to express what's in their energetic nature, which is revealed in their astrology charts, right? So we're seeing all these really tight square aspects, and in conjuncts as well. Saturn is in conjunct Moon. That is not, I mean, that's not an easy aspect especially when it's this tight. However, Saturn is in very good dignity. So it would be much worse if Saturn were not in good dignity. And Moon here is quite happy too, because it is being influenced by a very positive Jupiter, right? And just on a back to his life, Jupiter represents his own faith and optimism, and he was a religious man. And he chose Christianity, or Catholicism to be more precise. But it's not so much the Catholicism that's really, or the Christianity, it's his own faith and understanding of it, right? Everyone experiences these things differently. Some people will take religion in a very dogmatic, heavy way. Other people will take it in a way that really uplifts them. So, Jupiter in Pisces is very connected to God, to the spirit, to the imagination, to the spirit world, to the subconscious, things of that nature. So that's very prominent. So he had there were some issues here with Saturn and Moon, of course. Moon is sextile Mercury, so that's excellent as well for his writing, because now it's perfect sextiles too. It's exact, less than 1 degree apart. So now his writing can be expressed by, and he needs this Pisces because of this Capricorn. Capricorn's not very imaginative, really, but Pisces is highly imaginative. So all this imagination is coming out in and Capricorn is excellent for the writing part, right? You can be very imaginative, but suck at writing, right? You need to be able to have the contraction of Capricorn. By the way, this part is good because Mercury is in Saturn's sign, so it's a square, but Saturn's in excellent dignity, and it's bonifying Mercury by giving it an aspect in its sign. So even though there's tension there, like a headbutting quality, it still works out for this Mercury and makes him an excellent writer, as well as highly imaginative. He needs that both. You need the hardness, the crystallization from Capricorn or Virgo or what else? The earth signs, excellent, for that sort of thing. But generally, I don't know. I mean, the yang signs, I guess, well, it depends. Anyway, too much softness, too much Piscean, energy, would be very imaginative, but maybe not such a good writer. But this allows him to be an excellent writer. Capricorn's so structured, right? Virgo would be excellent too. Aquarius is also quite good, Saturnian ruled. Gemini, generally very good at writing and expressing. Yeah. And I think I already said this, but he's able to express his heart because of the sextile. So, the imagination and the structure is really coming together here. In the fifth house, house of creativity, fourth, fifth. So, home is where the heart is. His Venus is in the sixth house in Aquarius. And this is another helpful element because Venus is very creative. Sixth house is that very hardworking daily grind. Venus is often what we enjoy doing. It's ruling the ninth house and the second house. So his religion and his values are going into the sixth house in Aquarius. This is very studious, very hardworking. This is the kind of Venus that likes to just every single day do what it does, which is, in his case, it's going to be working, it's going to be writing, it's going to be thinking big thoughts. Aquarius is very socially oriented, thinks about society a lot. So here he can here he can imagine a society of grand proportions that is teaming up with this Jupiter and Moon and helping him to create his world, his fictional world. Very good. Then we get the North Node in Taurus, and that's also excellent for writing, creativity, disposited by Venus, right? Let's see, Neptune is trine, well, Neptune and Pluto are trine this Venus. So again, that's excellent, especially Neptune will add to the creativity a lot. I mean, this is not a very creative Venus because it's in the sixth house. So sixth house is very mundane, right? It's a mundane workhouse, serving others, competition, things of that nature, hard work. Aquarius also, Aquarius can be creative in a certain way. It has that the inventive ability, and it's often very absurd and humorous and scientific and inventive. But trine Neptune, it makes it much more creative. And the Pluto is going to bring in that dark, heavy element, the Sauron, the orcs, the fighting, right? All that gives it a lot of depth and dimension, right? We wouldn't want The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings without that dark element. Uranus is exactly sextile the ascendant. That's very good for being original and inventive and independent minded. We got some nice trines here. Light trine. And Moon to Uranus, not bad. Mars to Jupiter. Jupiter to Sun, that one's pretty good. That's adding a lot to his creativity for the Sun, because Sun in Capricorn, again, very structured, hardworking, goal-oriented, but not that creative. It's creative due to the fact that it's ruling the 12th house and in the 5th house. But this trine to Jupiter and Pisces really helps out the creativity a lot. Sorry, sextile. Gotta get my aspects right. Uranus is in conjunct Neptune. I mean, that's probably not that great because now Uranus is not getting a good relationship with Neptune, but it's minor. I mean, doesn't matter that much. Let's look at Draconic chart. Okay, Uranus right in the first house, pretty close to the ascendant, adding, it's also in Virgo, so this is really adding to a lot of the independence. And that's important when you're, I mean, you know, if you're creating your own world, you don't want it to be derivative. Uranus will not be derivative. Uranus is the planet that will keep you from following anyone or anything because it's like oil and water. It's allergic. It's like beneath Uranus. Uranus, you have to remember, is the father of Saturn, and it's the grandfather of most of the other planets. So all the other planets are basically beneath Uranus. So therefore, Uranus will not follow them. It's beneath him, right? Uranus does not follow his children or his grandchildren. Uranus is the one who leads the way for his children and grandchildren, right? So therefore, Uranus will not follow. Uranus has a God complex. He thinks he's above all the other planets. Therefore, why would a god follow his, you know, those lesser, you know, lesser gods, lesser planets? Anyway, Uranus is very independent-minded, and it is beneath Uranus to follow. So therefore, he's having the Uranian influence of being very independent and completely original, completely independent, completely following his own path. That's good. That's very good. That's excellent, because that's one of the things that makes Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit so wonderful. It's like completely new, completely fresh, right? Never been done before. Not derivative in the least. That's not to say that he probably doesn't have various influences from here and there. I don't know, but generally speaking, no. The South Node, obviously, the Draconic South Node is always at 0 degrees Libra, but still significant that his Saturn is lining up with the Draconic South Node. Just adds significance to this Saturn in Libra. Saturn in Libra is very fair-minded. So Saturn rules the law, rules the enforcement of the law, rules authority. And in Libra, it's very fair and balanced. You know, in some of the other signs, Saturn can become too, when Saturn lacks dignity, it's either fearful and timid or too dictatorial and tyrannical. Those are the two polarities of an undignified Saturn. It's like, oh, I can't do anything, you know, like frozen, you know, like just frozen in fear and negativity, or like, do what I say, damn it, you know, like forcing people to follow you, like dictator, right? But Saturn in Libra is very fair, very balanced, very mature, and really likes to, you know, really wants to use the law in the highest capacity. That's a Saturn in Libra. So, you know, rule by law, rule like in a very honest, just rule by law kind of way. The judge and jury, Saturn in Libra. Yeah, it's just, it creates a very good sense of justice and fairness and equality. So that's nice. I mean, how does that play into Lord of the Rings? It helps him understand, it creates a great understanding of fairness and justice that is spread throughout the books. And I think we just, you know, it just helps add that level of authority. So, yeah. More Uranian influence here with Mercury exactly conjunct Uranus and Scorpio. Now this is great because Uranus and Mercury really go well together, and it creates a lot of brilliance, very brilliant thinking. Sun conjunct Draconic Sun conjunct Mars in Scorpio. And for those of you who don't know, the Draconic chart, I know I said this a lot, but if you're just watching this for the first time, the Draconic chart, it will show an inner quality that he feels, but not necessarily, it's not really projected on the outside. It's just more of a subtle second layer of the chart that is it's felt internally, and it has to do with the nodes of the moon. It's based on the nodes of the moon. You put the north node at 0 degrees Aries, and that automatically puts the south node at 0 degrees Libra, and then you just line it up from there. Everything follows the same way you would have. The chart is basically in the same proportion, right? North node and Neptune, Pluto, North node, Neptune, Pluto, MC. So it's the same chart, it's just shifted to have the north node at 0 degrees Aries. In any case, you look for resonance, you look for conjunctions, and that shows you a deeper layer of what's going on. So Sun in the 3rd house, Mercury in the 3rd house, very prominent, lining up with Uranus and Mars. Sun and Mars are actually not a bad combination because Sun is exalted in Aries, and so Mars really helps motivate the Sun, gets it moving and active and initiatory. Moon and Jupiter and Capricorn. Now that's not such a great combination because neither of these planets like Capricorn. Moon is debilitated in Capricorn. In detriment in Capricorn, and Jupiter is debilitated in Capricorn, right? Because Moon rules Cancer, Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, right? So here the Moon and Jupiter become very materialistic, very hard, cold, and dry, unimaginative, and career focused, material, like, you know, Capricornian, right? But this again is another element that helps add layers and dimension to the whole Lord of the Rings universe, if you will. We need those the negativity, the dark elements, and these are quite dark. You know, how else is he going to get into the heart and minds of Sauron and these orcs and the evil wizards and all the evil people that the good guys are fighting against? He needs to be able to tap into that. And so part of him has to be able to relate. So he needs those darker, heavier elements. 8th house, Pluto and Aries, along with Neptune. Again, similar theme, dark, heavy elements. Pluto in 8th house is so dark, so heavy. Not to mention in Aries. I mean, that's really a heavy placement. Mind goes very deep into the realms of Hades with this kind of combination. Chiron, science fiction. That's one of the associations with Chiron. Chiron and Gemini, so science fiction. Yeah. If they're not making much, you know, aspects to anything, I just don't pay that much attention to them. So, yeah. Let me pull up the notes real quick, just because I like to. Okay. Chiron, Uranus. Again, I'm just saying, I'm calling the Chiron here for the science fiction element. Conjunct Uranus, so that's quite good in the 3rd house. Mercury, yeah, it's not it's making conjunction with the south node of Venus. So adding the Venusian element to his writing, that's quite good. South node of Jupiter. Here the sun is conjuncting all these planets of, south node of Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter. These are generational. Just pointing to the fact that our society is very well versed in the material elements of Capricorn, building and business and money making and success and material. We live in a material world, right? And that's what this all says. So he's very familiar with that side of things, being right in the smack dab middle of Capricorn. Venus is exactly conjunct the south node of Neptune, so adding more creativity to the Venus. That's quite good. North node of Uranus conjuncting the Pluto, Neptune. And that's just adding another dimension to the Gemini writing career ability. Now he has the 3 outer planets pretty much conjunct the MC in Gemini. It's appropriate. And Chiron's widely conjunct the north node of Neptune, again, in Leo, 12th house. Again, science fiction, creativity. It's a light influence. I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. Alrighty. I think that's it. Mercury's retrograde, forgot to mention. So let me turn these off. The Mercury's retrograde, and then Pluto and Neptune are retrograde. The Mercury retrograde is interesting as a writer, him being a writer. It will be more, a bit more contrary, a bit more going against the grain, and a bit more individual. They say that retrograde planets, at least in evolutionary astrology, have a bit of a Uranian quality, meaning that they're very individuated. So again, just not really going with the flow, going against the grain of things, and questioning. Well, there's a lot of self. There's going to be a lot of doubting oneself, doubting a lot of things, questioning, right, with retrograde, especially Mercury in retrograde, rewriting. So I think that's probably why it took him 10 years to write Lord of the Rings. A lot of that. Did I do it right? Going constantly reflecting back on himself, going back. Is this okay? Is this good? Do I need, let's rewrite it. Let's rework it. Okay, let's go back, reread it. Okay, gotta redo it. That sort of thing. All right. I think that's pretty much it for, I forgot to mention, the moon's ruling the 11th house, in the 7th. Somebody from his community is going to be his wife. Okay. That seemed pretty irrelevant. So, but anyway. That's it for JRR Tolkien. Guys, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and book a reading with me. I offer astrology readings. So go to my website, macroastrology.com, or email me directly at macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com. And leave a comment if you like. All right, guys. Thanks. I'll see you again soon.